Former Eskom CEO Brian Molefe has been implicated in a locomotive scandal while still at Transnet. Molefe was the CEO of the parastatal when he allegedly approved billions of rand in questionable expenditure. The allegations are contained in a leak of Werkmans report which unearths massive alleged corruption at the state-owned entity. And joining us now is Brian Molefe, former Eskom CEO. Good morning and thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
It's been a while that you've been in the public domain. Was this deliberate? Are you sort of laying low?
Well, I am just minding my own business at the moment, except that yesterday I was really irked when a City Press journalist, Mashiho, called me and said, there is a report by MNS that implicates me, and yet MNS has not contacted me. They have not shown me the report. They have leaked it to a City Press journalist who wants to run the story on Sunday, and I decided not to keep quiet about it, because there is no way that I can respond to any question on that MNS report if I have not seen it. And if it implicates me, and if their intention is to publish a story on Sunday that damages my name without my having had a fair opportunity to present my side of the story.
Would you say that you've almost become a soft target in that you are fair game? If your name is mentioned, it's associated very closely with corruption, state capture, Gupta-linked firms, that there is a level of assuming your guilt?
Yes, I mean, the levels to which we have deteriorated into treating matters as if we're sitting in one big kangaroo court are actually astonishing. People are not prepared to listen to the other side of the story. They don't even care what the other side of the story is, and they continue to talk and publish things without having listened properly to what the other side of the story is.
Okay, let's take a step back and look at the Werkmans report where you had been implicated with two others, saying that the current situation at state-owned entities has got a direct link to state capture again, and primarily that there is at least a 1 million or trove of 1 million electronic evidence that investigative journalists have reported on. Which of that is true? Because there's quite a lot that we need to ventilate.
When Werkmans was working on that investigation, I cooperated with them. I sat with them for about maybe 3 to 4 hours, telling them exactly what I know about the transaction. When they finished writing the report, they did not give me a copy. In fact, up to today, I still don't have a copy of the report. So I've never saw the final report. I don't know, other than hearsay from City Press and other tabloids, that I am implicated in the Werkmans report. But I have never seen that report. Nobody has had the courtesy of giving me the report and asking me to respond to the specific allegations. But having said that, transactions of that nature, the 1,064 locomotive transaction and other transactions like the upgrading of the railway line to Richards Bay, the refurbishment of the Durban Container Terminal and the Cape Town Port of Cape Town refurbishment, and other big transactions, Port of Moha, multi-billion pipeline, get audited as and when they happen. So as the transaction unfolds, there are auditors that are checking every single step of the transaction. And those auditors are checked by external auditors. These are internal auditors, are checked by external auditors. And on the basis of their audit reports, they then write the financial statements of the company. During the years that these transactions happened, our Transnet's financial statements were not qualified. Nor were there emphasis of matter relating to these transactions. So my interest, really, what I would like to see, because these things happened some time ago, is to see where is the difference between the audit reports and these new reports that are coming out through the media, through City Press, that are being leaked to City Press, that are being used for whatever purpose. I don't know where the difference is between what was audited then and now. because maybe that is where the problem is.
I mean, you know, short of the judicial inquiry into the state of capture report, I suppose these are things that would only be finalized or answered with the conclusion of that particular commission, because your frustrations or your life really was turned on its head with you being implicated in the state of capture report. And I think from then on, there had just been a snowball effect.
Look, I was not even really implicated in the state of capture report, other than Advocate Madonsela said I was seen in the Saxon World area. That is all that the report said, that I was seen in the Saxon World area and that I made phone calls to certain people, that my phone records reflect that I made phone calls to certain people. By the way, she never had the courtesy of giving me those phone records that she had. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to this commission of inquiry to myself find out exactly what was the basis of this halabaloo in an organized setting, not in a kangaroo court, with a respected judge, deputy judge president, listening and taking evidence properly. So we look forward to it. In fact, as you say, I have been lying low. I've been lying low because I would like to prepare for that inquiry so that even I can begin to explain what are the forces that were behind all of that hullabaloo.
Because, I mean, at some point in your illustrious career, one would say that you were Mr. Fix-It in having turned around the Public Investment Corporation and Transnet, and then you went to Eskom. We had energy security and what's happening currently. What's your response to the DA Shadow Minister of Enterprise Development, Natasha Mazzoni, saying the current situation is at Eskom emanates way back with those that are, quote-unquote, implicated in state capture?
I would not take credit for having single-handedly fixed anything. Wherever I have went, at PIC, at Transnet, even at Eskom, I have worked very closely with the people that work there, the people that matter, the people that have made it possible for the company to be where it is. And in fact, it is just through the engagement in a constructive way with the employees and the managers of the entities at which I have worked that we have been able to achieve what we have been able to achieve. In certain instances, we did fail, but more often than not, we were able to be successful. And I credit that to the ability to take people with and work with them.
Of course, it's a thankless job of being in a parastatal or state-owned entity because of the level of scrutiny that taxpayers will put you under. So we'll zoom in on what you refer to as failures. Would those be described as maladministration, wasteful expenditure, corruption, and aiding Gupta-linked families?
I do not have a problem with scrutiny, as long as the scrutiny is fair, and as long as the questions that are being asked are fair, and as long as the scrutiny is based on evidence. In my career, in the entities that I have worked at, I cannot remember having a qualified audit report. And so the books were looked at by external auditors, reputable firms. However, it is very difficult to answer to things like, why were you in Saxon World on such and such a date? I mean, what has that got to do with scrutiny? I mean, I don't know how many times or how many people are in Saxon World today as we speak, for whatever reason, and what they are doing there is their business, and what that has to do with proper evidence of wrongdoing. And that has not been presented anywhere.
Do you regret saying that, what was the quote, you were in the Saxon World Shebeen, and I'm paraphrasing. Do you regret saying
Actually, I have never said so. And in fact, the Sunday Times was forced to retract a story by Judge Molefe for having published the fact that I had said I was at Saxon World. That quotation was taken completely out of context. What happened is, on that morning, when I got to the office, I said to the managers, the public protector says I was at Saxon World. And one manager said, but there's a Shebeen there. And later on, I related the story that somebody said, there's a Shebeen there. I said, somebody said, but there's a Shebeen there. And I think ENCA just cut the portion where I said, but there's a Shebeen there, and played it over and over and over again until it was embedded into the psyche of South Africans. And I think it is abuse of the responsibility that journalists have, that the media has, of reporting the truth. I reported this to the Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman, Judge Molefe, retired Judge Molefe, ruled against the Sunday Times and asked them to retract the fact that Mr. Molefe had said he was at the Shebeen. They did, somewhere in the Sunday Times, and a very small retraction many weeks later.
So what is the recourse for you? You said you've explored the mechanism, the ombuds. You're now coming out publicly, open letters. What else is there for you to clear your name?
No, I mean, I do not think that I have to actively work at clearing my name. If I know that I have not done anything wrong, the truth will come out at its own time. I'm now working on a small vegetable patch, and at the right time, when asked the right questions, I will respond to them. But I do feel that especially the media went over the top with the way that they treated these matters.
Your transformation advocacy, some would say that you've been purged or you're being attacked deliberately because you were driving a more opportunities for black businesses. Is that your call? Is that what you?
I don't know. That is what people have said. I do not have irrefutable evidence that that is indeed the case. But I do know that there are certain quarters who did not like what my stance was on transformation, what my stance was on black economic empowerment, and that has been consistent since the times that, even before the PIC, when I was in the National Treasury. We were the first people in the National Treasury, when I was in Asset and Liability Management, to invite the local banks to work with the international banks in helping us raise international financing. That had not been done in South Africa before. We had only used the international banks to do so. So it's something that I actually felt very strongly about, transformation and the way that we do business. Well, like I say, I don't have irrefutable evidence that that is that stance that has led to...
Is part of the transformation interventions that you were trying to effect at SOEs, but let's stick with Eskom as it's the most recent, where the Tegeta contract under your tenure was materialized, and yet there is a sense that somehow you were instrumental beyond what was required of you as an executive.
You know, the interesting thing about the Tegeta prepayment, I have explained why the prepayment was done, because it was done at Eskom when I was chief executive. But very few people will tell you that the meeting that happened in the evening where that contract was approved, a meeting that was called by the then company secretary, Susan Daniels, with board members, I was not at that meeting and was not even invited because I was on leave on that particular day. In fact, somebody was the acting CEO. So things like that I did not really actively participate, but I still understood why we needed a prepayment. There was nothing wrong with it because it had been done before. And it is not like I played an extraordinary role to make sure that the prepayment happens. I was not even at the meeting where it was approved. So, but I can't say that it was wrong. It wasn't, because we needed the coal for that winter. And the prepayment is something that Eskom does all the time. In fact, now with the coal shortages at Eskom, I suspect that there are prepayments that are being made.
Okay, and under the new leadership, because there has been almost a cleanup, if you like, with the new dawn or new dispensation of SOEs, and your view of the current leadership of whether they somehow are of a better caliber, or whether they are being set up to fail, because systematically it just seems that there's this dysfunctionality in the SOEs.
I have faith in the abilities of Mr. Pakamani Hadebe, who I know very well. We work together at the National Treasury. We're in asset and liability management. We did a lot of transactions together. He has always impressed me as a very capable leader. He was very successful in turning around the land bank. And I'm quite sure that the trust that the president has placed in him has not been misplaced. And I'm quite confident that even the current problems will be resolved at some point.
Mm. Well, the problem is in the sense that there had been concerns that SOEs are deliberately run to the ground so that they can be sold to the highest bidder at a fraction of what they cost, because of the agenda around privatization and the political elite that would benefit from these lucrative contracts. Your view?
Once again, I wouldn't like to comment on that, because I do not have irrefutable evidence of what you are alleging. There are people who feel that way. And I think that that has to be interrogated and investigated. But I cannot sit here and say that is indeed so, because I do not have irrefutable evidence. You know, I cannot myself, being so passionate against the disrespect for evidence, disrespect for due and fair processes, and a proper scholarly approach to problems led by evidence. I'm a big advocate of that. I cannot sit here and then begin to behave like a priest in a kangaroo court myself.
But how when the tables are turned and you are now meted with that kind of allegation or nuances, you know, and innuendos, how do you deal with it?
History will be the final judge. One day, somebody will look back and say, so what was the evidence? That is the only comfort that I take. But at the moment, it is actually, in a democracy such as ours, in a society that is so entrenched in the Constitution, the right to be heard, and fairness, that actually we as ordinary citizens allow these kinds of things to happen. Give the media this free hand at making these unsubstantiated allegations in the way that we do.
Mm. But on a personal level, you cannot say that you haven't been affected, and especially when, in the interest of your family, and I think the last press conference before your resignation was precisely because it had become unbearable.
Yes.
Yes, and so how are you planning to circumvent any future? We're having this discussion now because of an eminent press media report that may come out. We'll come back to the MNS report, but how do you put out the bushfires, as it were?
Well, the nice thing is that with what I'm doing now, the vegetables don't argue with me. They don't make allegations. They're just afraid of the frost, and I can appreciate why they're afraid of the frost. And I'm able to deal with what I'm doing at the moment. And that I'm not in the space where I have to deal with these things, except for when they come from the past. And like I said yesterday, I just took a decision that, look, I'm not going to sit back anymore. I'm going to stand up and respond and say, go and check the audit reports of the internal auditors and the external auditors and compare them with the Werkmans and the M&A or MNN report. And then only them let us engage and show me where I have done wrong, because that has not been done, and yet the matter is about to become very, very public with an allegation on Sunday that I have done wrong, with process not having been followed. In South Africa, with a strong constitution that supports the right to be heard,
Yeah, but if you may not be well averse with the information, but according to reports, there is at least no less than 1 million electronic documents that make serious allegations against you with regards to corruption at Transnet with the locomotive, etc. You did explain that these are multiple huge contracts, so and all of those have been audited. Why should people not believe that with so much evidence?
But you say there's so much evidence. You say there are 1 million documents. You haven't seen them. You've heard about them. So that's hearsay. So until it is properly presented, that we can go through it and interrogate it properly, I do not think that people should make allegations, or better still, people should believe it until the other side is heard and until the evidence has been dealt with appropriately.
All right, before you let you go, if there's anything else that we may not have covered, I was still going to come to your short-lived, suppose, parliamentary appointment, but for now, we'll just leave it there and maybe look out for the Sunday report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's a former Eskom CEO, Brian Molefe, joining us in studio. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back just after this.